Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another review, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. A lot went down in this episode, so let's just get right into this review. Natalie ended up taking all the baddies to the river in Jamaica so that they can ride on the bamboo rafts, and everything was going really good at first. But there was definitely still some tension between Mariahlynn and the girls in House A, because earlier in the episode they ended up confronting Mariahlynn about talking behind people's backs. They feel like she talks a lot of shit, but she doesn't say anything to people's faces, specifically when it comes to Sukihana. So when Mariahlynn's raft ended up riding past Sukihana and Sapphire, that's when they started yelling things out at her. Now, she tried to ignore them, but they started talking about the way that she smells, and she really started getting irritated, so she ended up getting off the raft. So Sapphire ended up getting off the raft as well, and look, Mariahlynn and Sukihana were having a very heated back and forth, and Mariahlynn told Sukihana that she wasn't the only person in House A talking about her, that all the girls in House A had something to say about Suki. And I believe Mariah. I believe that all the girls in House A had something bad to say about Sukihana, but they just wanted to throw Mariahlynn underneath the bus. Now, I'm sure she talked a lot of shit too, but what were they saying in return? Because a conversation works both ways. So what were they saying while Mariahlynn was talking about everybody? Because honestly, if they had an issue with her talking about everybody, why didn't they call her out sooner? And why didn't they say something to her while she was doing it? I'm sure they were joining in on the conversation, and I'm sure some of them had more to say than Mariah did. Now, while Mariahlynn is trying to have a conversation with Sukihana, Sapphire is standing between them, basically trying to make sure that Mariahlynn doesn't get anywhere near Sukihana, even though Sukihana is in the water still on the raft. And while Mariahlynn is talking to Sukihana, all of a sudden I see her falling into the water, and she grabs Sapphire by the hair and pulls her down into the water with her. Now look, I don't know what happened before they fell into the water, because I keep watching the clip back and I can't tell if Sapphire tried to hit Mariah or if she tried to push Mariah into the water, but she did something to Mariah, and Mariah grabbed her by the hair and dragged her into the water with her, and the two of them start fighting in the water. Now look, the fight did not last long. It really wasn't even a fight. It got broken up immediately after Sapphire hit Mariahlynn in the face. Now, after the fight gets broken up and Mariahlynn is now no longer in the water, she tries to swing at Sukihana, and so Sukihana wants to fight at this point, but because security will not let Sukihana fight Mariahlynn, security is walking surrounding all of them while Mariahlynn is trying to walk back to the bus. And Sapphire and Sukihana are following behind Mariahlynn, saying a bunch of nasty things to her, basically harassing her, and she's kind of trying to ignore them because I don't think that she wants to fight again. She said that the reason why she didn't want to fight again is because she felt like they were going to jump her, which they probably would have jumped her, so I think she did the right thing. But her eye was kind of messed up, okay? Her eye was all red. She had a huge, deep scratch underneath her eye, and she had like red marks all over her face. Like, she definitely, that one hit that Sapphire gave her really kind of messed up her face a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But I will say that I think it's good that, you know, Mariahlynn stood up for herself and she wasn't gonna let them bully her. I think that it was good that she fought regardless of the fact that she didn't actually win the fight. I mean, you don't have to win every fight that you're in, as long as you'll fight back if somebody tries to hit you. And so I will say that I think it's good that she defended herself regardless. And while Mariah is sitting on the bus, that's when Sapphire and Sukihana are tapping on the windows, yelling things out to her, and Sapphire is basically saying that she wants to fight Mariah again, but Mariah ends up calling out Sapphire because now all of a sudden she wants to try to have Sukihana's back, but when it came down to fight E.T., she did not have Sukihana's back at all. And you know, Sapphire said that she's going to hold the L on that situation, and that the reason why she didn't want to fight E.T. and Rolly is because she likes the two of them. But that's weird to me, honestly, that she would even say that she'll hold the L on that, because it shouldn't have been an L in the first place. Like, the time to defend your friend would have been when it was 2 against 1. To me, she should have stood up when Rolly stood up, okay? Because at first, Sukihana was getting into it with E.T. because she called out E.T. for throwing water on Smiley when Smiley was already leaving. So the two of them were having a a back and forth. As soon as Rolly stood up, that's when Sapphire should have jumped in like, no, it's not going to be a 2-on-1 type of thing, and she should have had Sukihana's back. And then when Sukihana was having the back and forth with Rolly and ET stood up and threw water on her, that's when Sapphire should have stood up and she should have went at it with ET. So to me, Sapphire doesn't get any cool points for now trying to defend Sukihana against Mariahlynn, because Sukihana could have handled Mariahlynn on her own, to be honest with you. She didn't need any help. So I don't understand why now Sapphire wants to try to prove that she's a good friend. Now, while Mariahlynn is on the bus telling the girls from House B what happened, that's when Natalie ends up getting on the bus with her father, and her father started saying that he doesn't like that Mariahlynn's face is all messed up after the fight with Sapphire because he feels like they're too big to be picking on Mariahlynn. And look, I get it, they are a lot bigger than Mariahlynn, but Mariahlynn does have a lot of mouth and she's had a lot of things to say that's negative this season about people. We've been able to see that throughout this season. So to me, she's not innocent. Do I feel like Sapphire should have been the person to put her hands on Mariahlynn? No, because I don't feel like she did anything to Sapphire. But at the same time, Mariahlynn does have a lot of mouth, so her being small doesn't have anything to do with it. Now, Mariah starts telling the girls from House B that she feels like the girls from House A were plotting on her. And look, I believe they were plotting on Mariahlynn. And this is the reason why I feel like they were, because none of them decided to call out Mariahlynn for talking behind anybody's back up until Sapphire and Sukihana ended up getting into it because Suki felt like Sapphire did not have her back. Now, Rolly and Sukihana ended up making up with each other, and so Sukihana was talking to Rolly again, but she still was not talking to Sapphire, so they had to come up with some type of plan to make it so that Sapphire can prove to Sukihana that she does have her back, and so they decided that Mariahlynn was going to be the enemy of Sukihana, so they started saying that Mariahlynn was talking all this shit about Sukihana, which she probably was, but they were too. I don't know if Sapphire was talking about her, but I know Rolly and all of them were talking about Sukihana as well. Not just Mariahlynn, but Rolly and Sapphire decided that they were going to call Mariahlynn out for talking behind Sukihana's back, and now all of a sudden, Sapphire comes into the rescue saying that Mariahlynn is plotting on Sukihana and that she's planning on fighting her, even though we didn't hear Mariahlynn say that she wanted to fight Sukihana at all. And so Sapphire comes in, fights Mariahlynn on behalf of Sukihana, and then now Sukihana can see that Sapphire is a real friend. So to me, they did plan this whole thing out, because if they really wanted to call out Mariahlynn for the things that she was saying, they would have called her out a long time ago. I feel like the whole thing was a plan so that Sapphire can prove that she's a real friend to Sukihana, and that's the reason why they called out Mariahlynn. Now, I don't know if that's really how things went, but from me watching this season as a whole, that's what I feel like happened. I will say that I think it's really fake that Sukihana and Rolly made up with each other, because how you make up with somebody who said all those nasty things about you? Like, they said some really nasty things about each other, and then Sukihana brought up Rolly's son. So to me, if you bring up my child in an argument, we'll never be cool with each other. Now, I don't know if they were just being cool just for the end of the season, but I don't know. I just know that it was really fake to me. And then on top of that, it's like the things that they said about each other during their back and forth, you can tell that they meant the things that they were saying. Like the things that Rolly was saying about Sukihana, those are things she already felt about Sukihana. She just needed Sukihana to do something to piss her off so that she can say those things. Same with Suki. She thought these things about Rolly before they got into a fight. She just waited until they had an issue with each other to say these things. So to me, them making up with each other was really fake and phony. Now, after all this drama went down and Mariahlynn decided to join House B, all the baddies ended up going to Bob Marley's house, which they were having a good time there, and everybody was talking to each other, and they were sitting around the table telling each other what they were thankful for and how good of a time they had this season, and despite the issues that they still had a good time with each other. And listen, I was hoping that they would not fight in Bob Marley's house, and they did not fight, but they almost ended up getting into a fight because Sukihana decided that she was going to address Mariahlynn again. Sukihana feels like she addressed Mariahlynn when they were at the restaurant in New York, and she told Mariahlynn why she felt like she should go home, and she did. She did tell Mariahlynn that she felt like she should go home because she has other people fighting her battles. So she did tell Mariahlynn to her face that she felt like she needed to go home, and she explained to her why. And I do feel like that was the time for Mariahlynn to say whatever she wanted to say about Sukihana to her face. She did defend herself, but she didn't say everything that she's been saying behind Sukihana's back to her face. face, including pulling up that nasty video of Sukihana and showing it to Rolly so that they can all talk about it, because Rolly was using that as an argument when she was going back and forth with Sukihana. So to me, Mariahlynn did say some things about Sukihana behind her back that she could have addressed to her face, but at the same time, Sukihana, this is Bob Marley's house. This is not the time or the place to be fighting. But according to Mariah, some of the girls behind the scenes were telling her that Sukihana was saying that she wanted to fight her. And look, I believe Mariah. I believe that some of the girls were being really messy when the cameras were not rolling and were telling her that Sukihana wanted to fight her. The problem is Natalie did about 100 of those damn house meetings throughout this entire season, and I feel like some of that should have came up during the house meetings, and then this whole situation that happened in Jamaica probably would have never happened, but it was a really messy situation. Mariahlynn did try to leave and said that she wasn't giving any toast with anybody, and she was trying to walk out, but you know, Natalie told her, look, we're in Kingston, there's nowhere for you to go, so you can't just walk off like that. And Tasiki and Anna went to get Mariahlynn and told her to enjoy the last night in Jamaica, so she decided to join them and she went along with the toast as well, which I think was a good thing, because look, again, they're in Bob Marley's house. This is not the place to be fighting. Now, at the very end of this episode, they all end up going to the club and everybody was having a really good time. There was no fighting. Everybody was just enjoying their last night in Jamaica, because this was the last episode of the season until they air the reunion next week. So those are my thoughts on this week's episode of Baddies East. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode down in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button for me. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos and hit the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all. And until next time, I will talk to you guys in my next video.